Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Wellbeing podcast, where we talk about all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. My name is Zach Bush, and today my guest is a new friend of mine, Chris Geddes. Chris, thanks for coming on. You know what? Before we came on, I actually didn't ask you. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, nailed it. Yeah, nailed
Perfect. Awesome. Cool. So, we've spoken briefly, we've messaged back and forth, but why don't you give everybody else a little background on kind of who you are and your journey to where you are today?
Yeah. Yes. Again, my name is Chris Geddes. I have been investing in real estate since 2017, but started doing it full time just a few months ago in April 2024. My background actually was in tech, so I worked at Google and various tech companies in the Bay Area for a long time. And then I think, like a lot of people, that was not a great thing for my overall health and well-being. And so, making a shift into entrepreneurship, funny enough, has allowed the flexibility to make my life much better in that way. And so, been really over the last kind of 4 years focused on a journey of improving my own personal health while also trying to improve my own wealth by investing in real estate and building a business based on that.
Awesome. I love that. So you started in 2017 in real estate. What did that look like? Is it the same thing you're doing now, or how did you get started?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I was driving to work every day, an hour commute in the Bay Area to go, 5 miles, which sounds crazy, but is pretty normal. And I was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. Shout out to them. I think a lot of people get started there, Brandon Turner. And, like that, they're like, you shouldn't, once you get your first property, you can get another property, right? It was like kind of that whole thing. Just get your first one. Don't do analysis paralysis. And
Mhm.
so, I bought a property in Bozeman, Montana. That's where I'm from originally. And I thought, it was so funny. I thought I overpaid for that house in 2017. And like the thing, right, over time, that house turned into another house and another house doing the standard. This is all, conventional financing. We put 20% down, bank loan, kind of stuff like that. But that was the first kind of kick for us, which started this journey.
Awesome. So Montana, right? With Yellowstone coming up, have you seen any changes in that area in that market with that show Yellowstone kind of bringing things up? I know it's kind of a sidetrack, but that's always
Oh
what I think of
yeah,
with
it
Montana.
it made, I mean, Yellowstone kind of coming out just the beginning of the pandemic, and then you had that big push of domestic travel in the US in 2021, 2022 when things opened up a bit. Yeah, I have met so many people in airports, or we're traveling, "Oh, where are you from?" "I'm from Montana." Like, "Oh, we went out there. We went out there." I think tourism must have doubled or something like that. So there's a huge driver to the state. A lot of people came out here, and also, as a lot of places in the country, a huge driver in real estate. I would say the average single family home in Montana has almost doubled in price since 2019.
Yeah, so it's funny that you said like when in 2017 when you felt like you overpaid then, right? If you had known what you know now, you probably would have like, I wish I had bought 100 houses.
Exactly. I mean, everyone feels that way, right? And it's a good indication. I think and maybe we'll talk about this, but even now, people things are overpriced. Maybe if you have a 12-month view, yes, maybe it is overpriced. But if you think long term, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're likely going to have a similar thought, even in pricing of 2024. Man, I wish I bought 10 in 2024. When you think of if you're looking at 2064 or something like that, right? And that's a good thing, I think, for investors, especially in real estate. You need to think a longer time frame. You're not going to be wealthy overnight. And so that was a really good lesson for me, as well, of just, it feels so silly now thinking about, I was a little unhappy or slash grumpy in 2017, and it really laid the foundation for a lot of stuff I'm doing today.
Yeah, the long-term view of it is definitely super important to remember because I'm, getting into it, like you see the wealth that people have made from real estate, but you see the result of 10, 15, 20 years of work and you know, appreciation and all of the things that come with that time frame. But I think what real estate gets sold as a lot from certain people, not anybody specific, but that hey, this is a get money in quick, like you can
Yep.
be rich and 6 to 12 months, like I quit my job and it's like okay, maybe like certain strategies or maybe if you get a little lucky or put a ton of work in, certainly possible, but for the most part this needs to be a long-term game and it's not something that you need to like expect to get something turned around really quickly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think the point you said of put a lot of work into it is true, regardless. Even for someone who's a somewhat passive investor and maybe your goal is only to buy 1 or 2 properties a year, it's still a lot of work. There's a lot of due diligence you have to do, understanding. You're going to run into issues. It's definitely not a passive game. But if you're willing to do that, put that effort in, and you can look at a 5, 10-year, 15-year time horizon, you'll be very happy with that effort. And that was
Yeah, and you mentioned passive, right? I think, when I first was getting into it, they were like, "Oh, mailbox money, like it's passive income." Like even if you get to the point where if you bought something, like you bought your traditionally, right? You put your 20% down, assuming it was, market ready, turnkey, like, and you just rent it out. Even when you have renters, like even if you have a property management company, there's still work every once in a while that you need to do on it. I wouldn't call it fully passive. You need to, be in communication with the property management company like once a year. Or I'm just reviewing some of our insurance on properties, and like you still have to do some stuff. So it's being sold as passive income, but very rarely is anything passive income, especially again in that short time frame.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and I'll say like I actually love this, type of renter, but I rent in Montana mostly to college kids. And I love that, mom and dad go on as the co-signers. That's very key. So if anything's wrong or someone doesn't pay, mom and dad get a phone call and things get resolved. But I've had, when I had an offensive lineman live in my house, and I had an offensive lineman sized hole in a wall. Kid was very nice. He tripped and fell and just went right through a wall. Was it malicious? No, but my property manager's like, "What do you want me to do with this?" When you see this huge person's outline in drywall, it's just kind of funny. And it's there's always things you got to figure out.
It's always something new. It's always something different. I think that's part of the challenge and part of the fun in real estate is like every day brings something different. Every deal brings something different and different challenges, and you got to figure out how to solve them.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got started with the first one, right? You mentioned that you rented out to college kids. Is that was the first one that you would rent it out? Is that what you did initially? Like, give me a little more about, your strategy going into it and how you kind of got over some of those initial hurdles going through it as this is your first rental property.
Yeah, I mean, it like anything, I thought I knew what I knew going in, and I learned a lot through it. This is, I think, great advice for anyone. Leverage people. My real estate agent, who's still a friend of mine, recommended my property manager. My property manager's like, "This is what you're going to do with it. This is how it's going to get taken care of. I've got you," essentially. Because I was living out of state, so my first year renting, I was still in California. This was Montana, so I even knew the town, but I was thousands of miles away. I was never going to deal with anything in the house. That wasn't the plan. And so, I mean, it's right next to Montana State University in Bozeman, so it's a great college rental. When he underwrote it, the math made sense. He knew what the rents were. It was really easy. There's 34 identical units in this complex. The rents all pretty much the same. It's a 2-minute walk to campus, so there's a lot of drive and a lot of kids that that are there, and so that worked like that. And yeah, I mean, it was really a simple, pretty much turnkey. I inherited tenants. They turned over at the end of the school year, and my property manager took everything from there. And I haven't had any major issues. It was actually a really good kickstart of my career. I ended up becoming it's an HOA. I'm now the president of that HOA. I joined the HOA. There was no one who wanted to do it when I got on. It was a good way, I was like, "Oh, this would be a passive investment," and then I'm on the HOA board. But it was a good, really good way for me to understand. My was like, I want to learn. I want to make sure if there's any issues coming ahead down, like maintenance stuff, that I can be aware of it. We can plan for it, all that kind of stuff. And so it was just a great first jump into real estate because I just took on way more than I ever thought I would too, but it was an excellent learning experience. And like that one, once I felt comfortable, like a lot of people, I was able to have the flexibility to, I mean, that first house, I think I've refinanced 4 times at this point. All cash out refinances. And so, again, like this is a unique time frame where I bought in 2017. Prices went up through 2019. The prices even went up again in 2020, 21. Interest rates were low. It was very easy to refinance. It was really easy to get the appraisal and all that kind of stuff. So that is kind of rare, but I was able to take advantage of that, and I use that to leverage to purchase additional properties. Using the cash out refinance money from that to put into another property, to put in another property, to put into another property. And that, that's like the bigger pockets thing they tell you. Everyone says, once you get the first one, it'll help you get the second, help you get the third. And that's 100% what happened in my career.
Yeah, I think it's super important to highlight is that like you took advantage of what the market did, right? You didn't buy it anticipating that it was going to go up, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever that is, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? If the numbers work now, like you said, it's going to build as time goes on, and it's only going to help you acquire more. Like just get into it now and figure things out, run into problems, solve those, and then you'll get that one, and then the next one will be ready, and the next one will be ready, and you'll gained experience, you'll have gained knowledge, and hopefully the house has gained some appreciation. And if not, cool, it cash flows now. Like I bought it for a reason now. Like we'll just ride out whatever wave comes down the road. Like not get too worried about what is in the future, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road.
Exactly.
So you mentioned for the first one, like you kind of you used a realtor who recommended somebody else. So I think that's super important to highlight too, is kind of building that team out, right? Whether or not how involved you're going to be, like it's super helpful to have people that know the area, know the market, know what you want to do a little bit more, whether it is in your area or just in a different area of business. So how did you find, your realtor initially?
So that one was it was a gentleman I've known for a long time. And so I decided to work with him. But like for anyone, like reach out to friends or family that have done work. I generally recommend, I like working with realtors who have an investor mindset. So like my realtor, he works with, he's got one investor where he's buying and selling a couple properties a month, just doing 1031 exchanges, moving properties and stuff like that. And so my realtor understands what a good rental property looks like. He understands some of these things, and his goals were aligned with mine. Versus if I had worked with someone who mostly just did first-time home buyers, right? That's a different type of property purchase and the motives behind it. So I found my realtor, thankfully we're aligned in that same set, and I just happen to know him. But for anyone looking for the team, make sure that this team is aligned with what you're trying to do. So find an investor savvy real estate agent. Not all real estate agents own their own rental properties. Some real estate agents don't even own their own house. Ask those questions to be aligned with that. And then through there, and again, going back to Bigger Pockets, big driver for me, David Green's Out of State Real Estate Investing is a book. And the big ethos of that book is build your team. And so anywhere I have a property, it's my property manager, my handyman, my real estate agent, anyone who needs to be involved in taking care of this house, make sure you have a strong team for that. And that was the foundation of this property with my real estate agent, bring my property manager in, and then all the trades and the vendors that I now know who've fixed plumbing issues in my houses, fixed electrical issues in my houses, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's important to find that team and build a relationship with them, and you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you, right? It needs to be a two-way street, especially with a realtor. Like you can come across a realtor who's like, yeah, sure, I can put you on an MLS trip, and then you don't hear from them again, but you're getting emails. It's like, okay, well, that's not really what I'm looking for. Like, sure, that's a good start, but I like what you said about, hey, like, what is your end goal, and finding somebody who is aligned with, or at least understands where you want to go, because you're not going to waste their time by going in the wrong direction because you're not clear or you didn't communicate it to them. So they're not wasting their time and you're not wasting your time. So I think it's a two-way street when it comes to communication between you and your realtor and you and the rest of your team. Like communication is always the biggest thing, especially in real estate.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree.
So going back even further, so you were, worked in Google, and like I guess that probably came with a pretty good job that allowed you to save up. You saved a ton to buy your first property. What were you doing at Google? Like, how did that kind of help lead you into real estate and what you're doing now?
Yeah, my real estate investing career started before I got at Google because I was at a different tech company and I got laid off. I was 25, 26 at the time. It was the first time I was going through that experience. It was actually one of the better life experiences I had. But I realized, like, sitting at home that first week of not having a job, and you only have like 1 or 2 weeks of severance, and like, how am I going to pay the bills? There are people in my life that depended on me for the income I was bringing. And I was like, oh wow, I was incredibly dependent on my employer, like incredibly dependent on my employer. And so it's funny, we started investing in real estate even before I was making like the big tech bucks, if you want to say that. I actually had my now wife, but then girlfriend. I remember going to her, I was like, hey, what if instead of us getting married, what if we invested in real estate together? Like that was the exact line. I'm like, do you want an engagement ring or do you want to invest in a house for living for the future? And she looked at me, and we've been together a very long time. So she looked at me, she goes, let's get the house, right? Let's invest in our future. And so that was actually before, we had kind of meager savings we had put up, and I had planned that for honestly an engagement ring. we put that as the down payment for this house in Montana, and that set that up for us. And so really the thing that got us into real estate and the planning for that was, we wanted to try to diversify our income. So I didn't want to feel like we were dependent on an employer, dependent on a single person. If everything went south, we wanted to be able to do something different. And so that was really that big driver. And then, my background has been in product and project management. So it's kind of funny to think about that. Like my whole job was like building contingency plans. Like if everything goes wrong, how can we still do what we need to do? How can we solve these things? And so that mindset that I was applying day to day in my job at work, I wasn't applying in my own financial planning in my own life. How to, what's plan B, what's plan C if everything disappears. And so that, yes, obviously working in tech and stuff, you can make a good salary, but living in the Bay Area or California or some of these states, it's expensive. So as much as I would like to say, oh yeah, I banked a ton of money, we lived pretty simply and still, we put money away, but it's not like we were, driving a Rolls Royce and like living life like that. We live pretty simply. And so, that definitely helps as you kind of go through your real estate career, but really it was driven for me of getting laid off and then wanting to build out, some other income streams and diversifying that in the event that if I were to ever lose my job again.
It's funny that you said like, oh, for my job, like we're doing all these contingency plans, but then in my personal life, the part that's supposed to be is like, this is what really matters is like my family, my life. It's like,
Yep.
oh, I didn't do any of that for whatever reason. It's funny how that works. Is like I guess you get so burned out potentially from doing it at work that you're just like, I don't even want to think about doing it when I'm at home.
Yeah. I mean, like, I had the kind of real adult moment at 25, 26, where I was like, I was part of a tech family, right? Everyone took care of each other. I was going to be in this employer for a while. And then, I walk in on a random Tuesday and half the company's gone. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of the big wake up. And I mean, I'm big team, like screw your employer these days now. Like, I just like learned that lesson. Like your employer will be great until they have to make a business decision and then they're not great anymore. And I, for anybody who like is, keep your W-2 job as long as you can. Seriously, it's a great superpower to have. Continue to do it. But just know that loyalty to companies is not the same way it was like when our parents or, even, a couple generations ago, you could work at a company for 35, 40 years, get a nice pension and, you'd be covered. It's just not the reality anymore. It was a nice wake up call to have at, 25 to realize, oh, I need to plan better for this.
Yeah, I think, it's hard as I'm sure as it was, like, it definitely sounds like it was better to be that young and have that wake up call because now you're investing and now you have time for those investments to kind of come to full fruition rather than it being, 40 or 50, like you're kind of getting close to retirement, but there's still enough time where it's like, oh no, like now I have to try to build these skills. And then your time frame is, all right, I need to, rather than having 40 years, I have like 10, 15 years before I'm quote unquote retired. But,
Exactly.
yeah. And so I think too, like, even that when I was at Squat Up, I think it was Cody Sanchez who was saying that like, you don't retire from something that you love. So it's kind of like, that was something that stuck with me. It was an interesting concept. Like if I'm planning on retiring from something, like I probably don't love it. Like now that you're full-time in real estate, do you find that it's like, yeah, I'll probably slow things down and delegate a lot more as time goes on. But like, I don't see myself ever go quote unquote, just like retiring and kicking back at the beach.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of real estate investors don't have that personality. They go, yeah, you can hang out on the beach for 2 days and then you'd be stir crazy by 3 and probably like negotiating to buy a deal from the people sitting next to you at the beach, right? Like I feel like a lot of people end up trying to do that, because we're, like I'm mostly an introvert, but when in real estate you have to be extrovert, you have to have conversations with people, right? But yeah, I mean, in this, what I really enjoy, what I'm doing now is I'm building a business. Jumping to today, I have a wholesale and an acquisition team. We've got 5 people on our team. We market in 20 states. We're on track. We'll probably close 4 or 5 deals just this month, which is a great month for us. Wholesaling is inconsistent. Everybody know that, but this has been a good month, so I'm happy about that. But and what I love about what I'm doing now is building a team, building systems. Firing myself from certain jobs. Like my partner and I, we used to be the ones doing everything. And now we have a team doing a lot of our vetting, setting up closing calls. We have a full-time closer now that actually closes the deal. And I'm even trying to fire myself from other parts of the business. And I think that's the fun thing about building a business. I'm not going to be done. It's just like, let other people do other parts of the business so I can focus on the next big thing. And so, yeah, I don't see myself retiring. It's just kind of, I consider it graduating into the next level of something exciting in business.
And you get to teach people and lead people into building their own thing, right? It's part of your business now, but they're building skills and all that, and you're able to help lead that, and that can provide more satisfaction than you doing all the work. And like, as good as it feels to be a part of the whole process, seeing somebody else kind of take it and make it their own is super satisfying too, and watching them grow is super fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we tell anyone new who joins our team. It's like we have a responsibility, or like, and it's something that an obligation we have to hold up in 6 months, where you, the person coming to the team, are going to have a real decision to make. Of you're going to have learned so much and done so much in this business that after 6 months, you're going to be able to decide: do I stay with these guys and continue to grow, or do I want to go out and do my own thing? And we know that that's a decision people have. And like, that's how much we pour into the team. Like, they are going to be able to go out and run their own business, run their own team. Like, that's the only way we can be successful. We have to pour them fully. There's no secrets, right? They see everything that we do. And we've had one individual do that in the time we've been together, and he's running his own business. We've just been collaborating the last month on deals he's been doing. We're working together, and it's a fun place to be. And, yes, I would love if he was on our team, but I'm also happy for him going out and starting his own business as well. And so, yeah, and then that's I think the biggest thing that is hard, I think, often to get in corporate America is you have to do a lot. There's a lot of guardrails when you're building teams, and it's hard to kind of build your own thing. Maybe you manage 3 to 5 people, or at a certain point you manage an org of 100 people, right? Very cool, right? To have that experience, but I don't think you have that same kind of one-on-one, or the ability to see it from the ground up. And that's what I love in our business right now. I remember it was just my partner and I sitting on a Zoom, ripping calls together for a few hours a day, to now we have a team doing all this stuff and the things built out. It's been super amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And it shows that, even though you had somebody leave, you guys are still working together. So clearly that, was a good relationship that you had built, and, there's no hard feelings. But now, like you said, you're JVing with each other. So, you're working leads and all that. So it's not time wasted. You built the culture the right way, that even if they do want to leave, like, you're still in communication with them. You're still working with them. It's not like what I feel like W-2s are, where, like you said, there's guardrails there. You can only build a certain ways, but when somebody leaves, it's like, oh, screw him, he's gone, whatever. We're going to focus on the next guy coming in. So there's just definitely a dichotomy between the two of like, hey, building your own, build it how you want it. You can build whatever culture you want, versus the W-2, where maybe you have that same kind of leadership ability, or you're learning how to be a better leader and leading a team, but you're too constrained with potentially even what you see it as and what you want to do moving down the road.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, that's how you build a good culture, and yeah, the opportunity to build these teams has just been super fun for me, and so I don't see myself retiring from it anytime soon.
So you have the wholesaling portion of things, right? Is there anything else that you guys are kind of working on building or wanting to build up, or kind of like now that you have this kind of operating on itself without you and you're firing yourself from jobs, what are you filling that time with? Is there another sector you're going to, or what does that look like?
Yeah, no, we are. We're graduating up to a new asset class. We are in the midst of an outreach campaign for self-storage facilities. We're looking for a more consistent active income. We like buying businesses. We like the mix and self-storage of real estate and business that come with that. And so, yeah, that is really what's freed up a lot of our time now that our wholesaling business, for the most part, needs less time in a given week for our stuff to make it, with my partner and I, to make it happen. So we're really focused on that. And so right now, just anyone, we're looking for self-storage facilities essentially within the Pacific Northwest and the Mountain West. So Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and New Mexico, which is kind of the only one out of that. But yeah, we're looking for these facilities, and we're taking the skill set we have of being good operators, doers, understanding how the different creative ways you can finance these properties. We didn't touch on this, but we're big on seller finance, creative finance, mirror wrap, subject twos, whatever you want to call them. So taking that skill set and trying to help some of these operators that maybe have been in the business 20, 30 plus years retire, get a better price than they would on the market, and allows us to come into an asset.
Yeah, for sure. The creative is definitely an interesting way. Right? There's lots of complications, lots of different terminology between it, but you're taking what you already know in a certain asset class, quote unquote, graduating up to another one that will, just bigger numbers potentially, and has that little added aspect of business. So I definitely I definitely love that. So, we've kind of gone through your whole journey, right? From starting to where you are to where you're going. What is some piece of advice that you would give somebody who's just getting started? We covered a bunch of different little things, but if you could highlight like one or two things that would, somebody just getting into real estate, what would be your advice?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is really kind of understand what you want. Focus on whatever that is. It doesn't matter with the thing, but be consistent with it. Really spend 60 to 90 days doing it over and over. You're trying to find a property, you're trying to partner with someone, whatever it is. If you honestly can tell yourself that every day for 60 to 90 days, you've worked on doing this thing to improve yourself at it or go towards that goal, I really feel confident you'll be able to achieve it. I feel like a lot of people go down a path, they don't actually commit to it. They do it for a week, like a diet or like, working out or whatever thing you want to use. And then they get frustrated. No, really be honest with yourself and push forward. And so be consistent for 60 to 90 days. I really feel confident that you'll see results from that. And then feel comfortable with partnering with someone who's done it before. One of my first deals, I ended up, in the creative finance space, I partnered with someone who had done it before. And I was really happy I did because it would help guide me through, and I still achieved that end result. And I learned a lot in that way. And so JVing, we say, or partnering with someone who's done it before to help you get into that first deal, because the first deal is terrifying. You really don't know how it's going to go. Like you'll be second guessing yourself. You'll do analysis paralysis, and more people than not just choose not to take action. And again, I'm not saying like jump in just to anything without any writing and just throw money out the window. Like, no, like do your due diligence, but maybe work with someone who actually understands how to do diligence to help you get into that. So I think a combination of just being consistent over that, a 60 to 90 day period, and seeking out someone who's probably done what you want to do to help you get in that first deal. Because once you do the first one, your eyes will open up and you'll realize, wow, I can do this 10 more times this year or 20 more times coming up. And then that really just kind of opens everything up for people, I found.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely power in working with other people and partnering up. It's, I went solo for a while and didn't leverage the community and people ahead of me and tried to figure it out on my own. And like it got done. It wasn't as pretty as it could have been. I probably could have made more money helping, getting help from somebody else. In some cases, I ultimately had to get help to make things happen. So, just save yourself the headache for sure. And just work with somebody if you're doing something that you're not familiar with. So yeah. I love those pieces of advice. So, we, in this podcast, we talk about real estate and business and stuff like that, but we also like to loop it into how can we, take some of those strategies, those tactics from real estate and apply them to living a healthier, more fit life. I know you're a power lifter, so why don't you give a little background on what you're currently working on that and how you got started into powerlifting?
Yeah. So right now I'm in my final 3 weeks of prep. I have the Montana State Championships in the middle of October, and I'm trying to set all of the state records in the 105 kilo weight class, which I'm excited about. But yeah, my powerlifting journey actually started 4 years ago. I had never spent really any time under a bar. And similar, we talked about, I played sports in high school like a lot of people. I was athletic. I hit college and I stopped working out. I gained 30 pounds and, just generally it didn't live a very healthy lifestyle. After I got out of college, my, W-2, my tech career was fairly stressful. All excuses, right? I could have done all these things, but I just didn't, I didn't take care of myself. There's no doubt about that. And so it was about my 30th birthday, roughly in 2020, where I was like, man, I'm tired of like being the fat kid. Right. And so my dad, credit to him, he's like, he had started doing, powerlifting, the concept of starting strength, Mark Ripito, if people look that up, the Blue Bible, that book of his. And my dad, he's like, why don't you just do it for 90 days and see if you like it? And so I showed up, and it was the first time since I was in high school where I consistently went to the gym, 3-4 days a week. I really enjoyed it. I was, seeing progress in my lifting. I ended up, getting a coach, and I went from someone who had literally not been under the bar really ever, maybe some basic like high school weight training, right? But that wasn't really focused, to, my goals this year is I'll have in this competition over a 600-pound squat. I'll be in the mid 300s for a bench press, and I'll have probably a mid 600s deadlift. And so, that for me is a big thing. When I literally hadn't picked up a bar 4 years ago, and seeing that consistency and that growth over that time has really helped propel me and make me feel much healthier. My whole body dynamic has changed. I'm still a big guy, but I have a lot more muscle on me than I did, 4 years ago. I know I have that strength. Everyone's kind of personal fitness goals are different. For me, I want to be just a strong person. That doesn't necessarily mean skinny, but I'm going to be strong. And so that, again, that consistency and just having this kind of outlet in my life, and knowing that 3 or 4 days a week, I'm just going to go do something to lift for my well-being, has been huge for me in my mindset and everything for my W-2, because I started this years ago, all the way into real estate. I really look forward to this part of my life. And it's crazy enough, but powerlifting can be a lifelong sport. My dad's in his 60s and he's lifting still. He's going to be at the competition with me. He's probably going to set all the Montana records in his age class, because I think he's the only guy lifting in it, to be honest. But he's still lifting in his 60s and is loving that. And so that has been a great kind of well-being and health outlet for me over the last 4 years.
Was he always lifting too? Like, I know you said he kind of introduced you to it. Had he always been lifting, even like way before he introduced it to you? Or did he kind of start at the same time as you?
He started maybe a year before me, something like that. Right. And I, one of the benefits of the pandemic is I was able to move back home closer to my dad. So I knew he had been kind of doing this for a year or so. But, when I'm living in the same town with him, he's like, come to the gym with me, that kind of stuff. And that's how I got started there. But yeah, he's relatively, he probably started lifting in his late 50s. And yeah, and some of my dad did similar kind of things. He wanted to feel strong, and he saw all the benefits of what lifting and what a strong person can do, and how that can increase your longevity in life. And he just really kicked me in the butt to start doing it in my 30s.
Was he? And so he was like your accountability buddy for a while until
Oh yeah. Exactly. My dad, he did lovingly. He was like, just follow this and I'll go with you 3 days a week and see if you like it. And then, I think he kind of dragged me there the first 2 weeks, and then I really enjoyed it. And then, he didn't have to do that afterwards. But, it's also fun. We've now built a home gym in his garage. And so I see my dad 3 days a week just to go lift, and he gets frustrated that, my overhead press is, more than his bench press at times, but he's very excited for that. We kind of joke each other and all these kind of things. So it's been a fantastic accountability brother, a partner as well.
Yeah, I love that. And, you made so much progress in 4 years, a huge amount of progress, not always super normal, but, I think it still shows 4 years is a long time, and it still took consistency to get there. And that's a testament to what you're able to do and what anybody's able to do if you just stick with it. Right. And I think another thing I want to point out too is the first 2 weeks, you're like, he needed to drag me out of bed to get there. Yep. What about the first 2 weeks was kind of that hard point?
It's just like anything. When you're doing something for the first time, you suck at it, right? It's hard. It doesn't feel good. You're not really used to it. And it applies to anything in life, your job, real estate, sales, working out. The first 2 weeks are just the hardest. And that's what I try to just tell myself is get through it, do it consistently. You'll start to enjoy it more, or at least you'll feel more comfortable doing it. Because, you have these weird, imposter syndrome. Why am I at the gym? Does everyone look at me? Are they watching my squat? How am I doing it wrong? Right. You just have all these things that go through your head. And that's the first, the kind of the weird thing we had to get over. But yeah, to your point, the success I've had is a bit unique. My coaches said I'm a little bit genetic freak, which happens, I didn't know that, but it did, but I think I've missed maybe 10 workouts in 4 years. That's the consistency I've had. And those have been, we've had in a family event, or it's a holiday, I've lifted on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving Day. There's been no excuses for some of those things, but that consistency has been really key for me. And really I truly believe anyone can achieve almost anything they want if they just consistently do it for a long enough time.
Yeah. I love that, it said that your coach was like, oh, you're kind of like a genetic freak, but that wouldn't have mattered if you didn't get started and stick with it, right? You could have all of the genetics to be this super strong, super fast person, but until you jump into the arena, you have no idea. So it's always why not find out, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate for me that I found out that I was a bit of a genetic freak in my 30s. Like, imagine I had been consistent in my 20s. Like, what I could
Yeah.
have done. No, seriously, it's like a real thing. Like, and you know, again, I've had success in this, but yeah, I mean, like, I look back and like, wow, like if I had just started 10 years earlier, what else could I have been able to do?
Mhm.
You know, instead of having, you know, 4 years of experience, what happens if I had 15 at this point? Um, and so, but again, you're truly, you're better off starting whenever you can. Don't think about the past. Just go do something. Because at the end of the day, if you feel like it makes you feel better, like, yeah, I'm doing competitions and stuff like that, but like, that's fun for me. Like, I don't really care what happens. Like, it's more of it's a goal setting, you know, a measure for me, something to work towards, which I find is really productive for me to have a goal to help achieve something. But at the end of the day, I just love doing it and it's fun. And so you should start whatever you should start as soon as you can if you find something that you think you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, and just like real estate, right? Like you can start with cold calling, you start with single families, and you can do that consistently. And maybe you do love it, and that's awesome. You can continue with that, but maybe you don't like it, and you can switch. There's some other asset class, some other way to get leads and get deals. Just like in fitness, right? Like you fell in love with fortunately the first thing that you kind of try, right? If you had started running, probably sounds like maybe you wouldn't have loved running and that, you know, you would have given up on that, but maybe you've built that habit that now you're switching over to something else, right? Just because you don't like doing the type of exercise that you're doing or the certain gym that you go to even doesn't mean that you can't switch to something else and try to find something that you love. You know, you talked about, you know, try something for 60, 90 days consistently, and then that you can see whether or not, see how much you've improved and see whether or not you need to make any shifts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you know, just don't do it for 2 days and go, I don't like it. Give it a little bit of time, right? You know, and you know, don't hurt yourself in any ways. But yeah, I mean, I am not a great runner, but you know, but and you know, I have run 10Ks before. I've done those things like that. I've done them. I definitely know I don't enjoy them. I'm not a person like, I'm just going to get up today and go run 10 miles. But I tried it. I thought I would be that person. I mean, I played soccer for a long time, so I did a lot of running, you know, with that. But yeah, find the thing that you enjoy, and it's okay if you don't find it the first, second, or third time. Just try to find it.
Exactly. I love it. And so, you know, you've seen a lot of success and over the past 4 years, obviously not everything was sunshine and rainbows, just like everywhere else. What are some challenges that you kind of had to work through over the past 4 years or more recently that you've overcome?
Specifically with the like weightlifting stuff.
What any of your journey, right? Maybe
Oh,
there's a setback or, you know, even just getting started. I know we talked about like the first 2 weeks, but like any struggles or any time periods where like you just, you know, didn't have it or struggled.
I mean, like anything, there are some times where I get in my head. I've got a heavy, like, you know, even tomorrow I have a heavy triple, and I'm like, well, I'm really gonna have that weight on my back, and I'm gonna do it. And sometimes you just show up and you don't want to do the work. You know, you know, like, even though I enjoy this, there are plenty of times where, you know, I'm just my schedule, like, it's 8 o'clock at night and I have to do a lifting session, and I, you know, like, want to just go home and sit on the couch and not do anything else. And so there's no different than anything else. There are times where you'll lose motivation. You will not feel excited about the thing. And I think the bigger thing is to figure out how can you get through that. And sometimes you just have to, I mean, I've had workouts where I've just been so unhappy with everything I have to do, but I know I need to get through it. And I think those are some of the better kind of life experiences where even if something like truly do enjoy and love, there are some days you just don't want to do it, but you should just do it. And that, I think, really holds true with like cold calling or anything in real estate. Like, sometimes the phone just feels heavy, and just in powerlifting, sometimes the bar just feels heavy. And even on like a warm-up rep, you're like, why does it feel this heavy? It should not move like this. And it just sucks. And you gotta power through it. And I'll be honest, some of the best successful days I've had started with me not wanting to show up.
Mhm.
And I think that's a big thing I've started to learn, where I didn't want to do it, but I just did it. And then I hit that new PR, or I had that big win at work or whatever it is. And I didn't even want to be there the day. I thought about, like, do I call sick, right? Do I just bail? Which I think a lot of people will do. And don't bail, just show up. And you likely will be better for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I love that. The demotivation, the like time where it's like, ugh, like no matter how much you love something, those days happen, and like just no matter what. So having, you know, your coach or your dad as like an accountability buddy or some lifting partner, or, you know, your business partner, whatever that is, like having that person just, you know, because your low might be, they might be feeling really good and they're like, no, come on, you go, you got it, like just. And like you said, just show up and do it. I've run into the same thing where it's like, I just don't feel like I have it today. And then I'll go and I'll just do half, like half effort, like whatever. It'll be what it'll be. At least I got something in. And then by the time I'm moving, like things are feeling good. Like maybe it's just because I've given into like, all right, I'm just here to get a workout in. It's relaxed me. It's loosened things up. And that's what allows me to perform. I don't know what it is, but I've run into the same thing, like business and in the gym, where it's like the times that I feel like doing it the least and then do it anyway is the times I come out either achieving something really good or at least at a minimum feeling way better about life in general sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you'll, I don't know. It's so interesting. Because like people are like, I'm too tired to work out. And it's kind of crazy sometimes that like, I feel tired when I don't work out sometimes, you don't do this and your body gets in these real things and you're right. Sometimes the best days you have are the ones you actually just didn't want to start but you're just there. And, I think your brain is a big part of this of just, you've committed to doing the thing. So you might as well do it. And your body finally gets on board.
Yeah. I mean, and I've even this week has been like hit or miss with the gym for me, like going in and doing full workouts. Like I've been dealing with a hip issue, so I've been doing PT stuff, but I usually do that and then do a workout. And with time constraints, I was like, all right, let me at least do the PT stuff and I don't get a workout in. And it's been, 2 out of the last 3 days I had to do that. And I felt like mentally just shot the whole day. But the last 2 days I've hit to the gym and got a nice workout in and my mood has gone 180. So it's just like, it's crazy what it can do. You don't always realize how bad that mood is or how different you'll feel now because you're so used to it until you start working out. And it'll be hard at first, but once you get into it, like, man, does it feel so good physically and mentally just to like clear everything out to get a workout in.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah. And I think, having, the whole basis of the podcast, right, is having this wealthy mindset, and how if you're able to keep yourself healthy through all of it, you're going to be able to build that wealth within it, within your life. And I really think that a lot of the consistency I was able to build up in my workout routines helped me build that same consistency into my businesses, into my real estate, into everything I'm doing now. Because if I can show up to the gym consistently 3 or 4 days a week and hit my schedule, why can't I do the same thing in my day-to-day for work or my day-to-day for businesses? And so, also it builds a lot of clarity, right? You get to be super focused. I don't think about anything else when I've got, 500 pounds on my back, right? I'm just focused on one thing. And so trying to channel that same mindset of, I have 2 or 3 things I have to get done today for the business. Let me just focus on those. Just treat it like I've got 500 pounds on my back and I'm just going to focus on achieving this one thing going up and down. Right. And so it's a really nice balance. And I don't think I would be where I am today and have that same level of success if I had not started kind of consistently trying to take care of myself and be healthy, 4 years ago.
I love that. And that's perfect. That's right. Like you said, it's exactly like what's what this podcast is all about, is connecting the two and finding the parallels between the two and, bridging that gap because it's very similar. So the fitness side for, we talked about real estate side for getting started. What do you recommend for somebody who's looking to get into fitness, right? Maybe they do have some real estate experience and they kind of have their own business or whatever, but they've let their health go. What's something that you say, like step number 1, this would be the first thing that I do or recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I think you figure out an achievable goal. Like everyone's like, I want to lose 40 pounds. Fantastic. I would love for you to lose 40 pounds. Right. But why don't you figure out a way to lose 3 and then lose another 3 and then figure out what are the things I need to do to go there, and know that you're not going to achieve that goal in the first session. And you might know this person. I feel like he's a big into CrossFit, or like he's one of the big CrossFit guys, but I can't remember what on one of his buddies asked him like, hey man, I'd like to lose some weight. What can you do? And this gentleman, and I people who know CrossFit is going to kill me, but he must be one of the bigger faces in CrossFit. Is it Fraser?
Matt Fraser?
Matt Fraser. Maybe it's Matt Fraser, right?
Yeah.
Matt Fraser. So he gets his buddy and they go to the gym, and his first shot with his friend is literally 15 minutes. And his buddy's like, his buddy's got like all of his workout stuff, his pre-workout, whatever. They do some basic stuff for 15 minutes. And Matt Fraser goes, all right, we're done. You guys like, really? He's like, yep. because I want you to come tomorrow and I want you to come the next day. And if you go all out for 2 hours and going from truly nothing to everything, you're not going to show up the next day. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. We have more to do. And so that's what I really recommend is when I first started, like my workouts were maybe 45 minutes, maybe. I'm in the gym for 2 hours now. It's awful. But my first ones were really, really short. And so do something that encourages you to be consistent and show up every day. Like, no offense, you're not going to lose the 40 pounds in a week. You're on a journey for it. But can you do something where you show up the 3 to 4 days you say you're going to do, or 4 to 5 days for the first week, so that you do just enough so you want to come back the next week, and then do a little bit more so you come back the next week. And so my recommendation to people is go easy, truly go easy. And the bigger goal is showing up to the place you want to achieve your goals than actually doing the thing for your first couple of weeks. And then once you do that, then you can start going to the longer workouts, doing things a bit harder. But I feel people they burn themselves out really early. They hurt themselves accidentally by trying to do too much. And if you're on the couch, you're not achieving your goals. And if you can't walk, or if you've got an issue or something like that. And so biggest thing is start slow and plan for a long journey. Don't go really fast and hope for a short journey.
I love it, right? Just like real estate, right? It's a long-term game. You're not going to get everything. You're not going to get rich, and you're not going to lose all that weight in a month. And, when I'm thinking about stuff like that, goals and what I want to do, it's like the 40 pounds is the result I'm going for, right? That's the vector. That's the direction the plane is heading. And then the tasks that you mentioned, what am I going to do to get there? Those are the daily goals, right? The 40 pounds is a result. The goals is really, what am I doing every day? Am I eating extra vegetables? Am I drinking extra water? Am I getting more sleep? Am I going to the gym for 15 minutes? If I'm doing those consistently, then I'm going in the right direction towards that result. If I'm not doing them consistently, what do I need to shift, right? I'm off course a little bit. What do I need to do to correct things and get us in that right direction? Because the things you choose may not be the right things right now, but at least you can do them consistently, and that'll get you a step further than either not doing them at all or not having the end result to kind of guide you.
Yeah, 100%. And so I think that for a lot of people, if you just are consistent and slowly work into it, you have a much better chance of success.
I love it. Yeah, consistency has been the theme of pretty much this whole episode, so I love
it.
So
that's very true.
So, where can people reach out to you? Like, I know we talked about a little bit about what you're looking for, at least on the RV park side. Like, where can people reach out to you? Is there anything that you were currently looking for, or kind of bottlenecks in your business that, if somebody has, they might be able to get in contact you for?
Yeah. So, you can hit me up on Instagram at Christopher_Geddes. My wholesaling business is Pine to Palm Homes. Pine-to-palmhomes.com. Pine like a pine tree, and palm like a palm tree, homes. In terms of things we're looking for, we're looking for self-storage in the Pacific West, the Mountain West, and those states we talked about. And then also we love to help people. So if people are in real estate, doesn't matter, if it's a cash deal, it's a creative deal, and anything else you want to do. If you need buyers for it, if you need help getting something under contract, you're not quite sure how to do what you're looking to do. I have a personal goal of helping 20 people get their first deal this year. I'm at 11. I got to really push for the second half, this last quarter of the year. But people come to me. We love helping people get deals across the line and JVing on stuff. So reach out for any of those things. And probably the easiest way is my Instagram at Christopher_Geddes. Get back pretty quick there. Or you can go to our website.
Sweet. Yeah. And I'll include those links in the show notes, so I have everything covered, and that way you can reach out to them. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. I like, you've had a ton of success in both areas. So it's always getting that good perspective on both sides.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Awesome.